I want to start by even before I share what my project is, I want to just kind of give a precursor because it's a subject that has gotten a lot of attention lately. I would think that most of you will probably already have an opinion formed. And my encouragement to you is this: hear me out, wait till the end, and then I can take it in Q&A so we can talk about it then. But so the subject of my focus has been, now my slide's going to stop working, using artificial intelligence to aid and support pastoral ministry. Okay. And so I know as I say that, I know at least one of you just got heartburn. Another probably rolled their eyes. And so this is a subject that has not been, that has been met with a lot of controversy. There's ethical conversations, there's stewardship conversations. And so as this technology has only grown lately, as I started thinking about what do I want to spend my time in this doctorate project doing, there really isn't a technological advancement more significant than the advent of artificial intelligence in recent times, if not arguably in any of our lifetimes. And so I decided this technology, whether we like it, whether we don't like it, whether we choose to use it, or whether we choose to condemn it, we ought to know what it is, and we ought to know how it's being used. And pastors need to be able to guide and equip their churches to navigate it. And so there's really, my focuses have been twofold. One, and I'll just let you know right up front, and we're going to go through this together. The stance I take is that a pastor or any individual can utilize this technology ethically, morally, and in ways to steward God's resources for good kingdom work. The second thing that I'm going to talk about is, even if I choose not to use this technology, I need to at least know about it because it's not going away. And it's integrating into every piece of every technology we already use. And we as pastors need to be able to understand the coming landscape so that way we can help navigate our churches through it. There's things that we need to be preparing the parents in our congregations for, because the world their children are going to grow up in is very different than what we've experienced in the past. And so it benefits us to at least be informed. And so this is what we're going to talk about. The project, my physical project, again, having taken a pro stance on using this technology, there are good and there are bad ways that this technology can be used. And so what I've done, this is my physical project, kind of in line with Reggie. My project has already been ongoing. I've actually created a YouTube channel called AI for Pastors. I'll put it in the comments, a link to it down in a little bit. But my project has been equipping and educating pastors to be able to utilize this technology ethically. And so that's been my focus. I've got a YouTube channel. I've got 7 or 8 videos on there. I'm adding more, several hours worth of content equipping pastors how to use this technology. And so in this presentation, this is the sociocultural. We're going to tackle 4 things. First is we at least need to have a baseline understanding of what is artificial intelligence. There's just miscommunications. There's misunderstandings. Whenever we hear artificial intelligence, everyone starts thinking about robots taking over and launching missiles and our computers turning against us. That's not what we're talking about. Second thing is we're going to talk about the concerns regarding pastors using artificial intelligence. The third thing we're going to talk about is, if we determine that a pastor could use this, how can it benefit them? So what are the pros? Why are we even having this conversation? How can AI be used to aid and support pastoral ministry? The fourth thing we're going to talk about is, even outside of the pastoral lens, what are just the general cultural challenges and concerns that this technology will bring? And I think we can say definitively will, because things are going to change, and we're going to experience new things in the coming years that we need to be aware of. And so we're going to start with this first one. What is AI? There's a great quote here by Henry Kissinger from the book The Age of AI and Our Human Future. Says this: AI involves machines that can perform tasks that typically require human intelligence. This is what it's talking about. These include things like translating languages, recognizing speech and objects, and making decisions. This is important, based on data. Not because it thought to itself, but because of data. And so what people don't realize is, in the concept of AI, AI is not a technology. AI is a set of different technologies that can be a lot of different things. Within the umbrella of artificial intelligence are things like natural language processing. I'm going to move my camera here. Natural language processing. AI can process and generate human-like language, supporting tasks like language translation, voice-activated assistance, and real-time cross-lingual communication. And we're going to go through some of the benefits more later. But second thing is image recognition. It can analyze and interpret visuals for use in facial recognition, medical diagnostics, and automated surveillance systems. Third, decision-making. AI systems analyze large data sets to autonomously make predictions. And when I say large data sets, we're talking trillions of pieces of information, really, that we can't even comprehend. In order to make predictions and decisions, we see this used in stock market forecasting, autonomous driving vehicles, and content curation on streaming platforms. So think when you go on Netflix and it recommends the next show to you based off of what it's learned about your browsing habits. We'll talk more about that. Fourth thing is learning and adaptation. AI can learn from experience, adjust to new information, and get better at tasks over time. And this is one where people start to get a little nervous and they say, I'm not comfortable with computers learning, because what if it learns too much? What if it learns something that I don't want it to learn? And this is where people start to get nervous about Skynet and Terminators and robots taking over the world. What we need to realize when we're talking about artificial intelligence, at least within the scope of our current landscape, we have what's called narrow AI. Narrow AI is able to do all these different things. It's able to learn, but it is limited within the specific parameters in which the program was designed to do. Good example, think of a computer that has been given the task to learn how to play chess. Okay, it can try every move on the board, and it can learn what moves work and what moves don't work. And over time of repeatedly playing games, it would learn how to play chess better. You take that same program that is learning and adapting, and you put a checkerboard in front of it, it wouldn't even know how to, it wouldn't be able to recognize the board, because that's outside of the parameters in which it was designed to do. And so, which is a fundamental understanding when it comes to AI, because we have this misconception that AI is just learning out there, learning how to do all these different things. These programs are simply operating within the very specific parameters that their human developers have given it the ability to do. And so that's an important understanding. Some examples of AI. ChatGPT has gotten a lot of publicity lately. It's a conversational text-to-text system. So you can type in a question and it responds conversationally with a response. So, give me a recipe for banana bread, and it would give you a recipe for banana bread. Right. And then you realize you don't have one of the ingredients that it needs. And so you say, I don't have any unsalted butter. It modifies and gives you a different answer. Okay. It's an informational tool, but it does it conversationally, which is kind of concerns some. And we'll talk about transhumanism in a little bit. The challenge of when we start to give non-humans human attributes. So think of like when we're talking to Siri or our Google Assistant on our phone, and we're talking to it like it's a human, but it's not. And so, but the reality is the developers of these programs, the reason they're conversational is because that's the way that we as humans best communicate. right? And so we communicate conversationally, so they've developed programs to mimic that for our ease. And so that's one example. Spotify is just another example. Spotify recently released their personal DJ, where if you have Spotify, you can go on, hit a button, and you literally have your own personal DJ that's curating music for you and giving you new recommendations for things that are similar to what you listen to, and giving you some throwbacks from the 2000s and all sorts of stuff. Really cool feature. Again, it uses AI. IBM Watson is another good example. Watson is a computer that was developed by IBM decades ago. It got really famous for playing in Jeopardy about a decade ago, and it won in Jeopardy. This same computer is now used. It uses artificial intelligence, but it's now being used in the field of medicine. It has a 90% accuracy in diagnosing lung cancer, in comparison to a 50% accuracy rate of the average human physician. And so, at least for anybody with lung cancer who's looking to have their cancer diagnosed, this is a valuable asset for them to be able to diagnose this. There's benefit to this AI technology. Fourthly, Canva. I know Reggie, I could tell Reggie used Canva in his last presentation. I'm using Canva for this presentation. Canva has all sorts of little AI tools baked into it to make a design experience a little easier and be able to remove backgrounds from images and do all sorts of stuff. I put some other examples down here in the left corner. Netflix uses it to give you suggestions of what it thinks you might want to watch. Language translation, Google phones, you can speak into your phone in English and it would automatically output in Chinese, Spanish, any other language. So if you were talking to a person in a third world country, last night at one of the presentations, we were talking about not knowing the native language being one of the biggest barriers in missional mission work. And we now have technology for real-time language translation. Amazon uses it to try and figure out what it is that they want to sell you. Banks use it to automatically flag potentially fraudulent charges. This is done through huge data sets and then learning through the probability vectors, what it is that is real and what's probably a scam. Your iPhone uses it when it recognizes your face to unlock. Google Assistant uses it, and so on. The point is, we're seeing this technology in everything, and it's only going to become more in everything, and we ought to know what it is and how we should respond to it. So throughout this presentation, we just looked at what is artificial intelligence. That's a 10-minute explanation of something that really deserves hours and hours and hours. But that's a base level understanding of what is artificial intelligence. So what are the concerns regarding using AI? And you've probably, and if I were you, you probably already thought to yourself some of the concerns that you would have over a pastor using AI in ministry. And so let's talk about these. Should a pastor should AI be used in pastoral ministry? One of the primary concerns, this is a quote from Jake from the book AI in Church and Ministry. One of the primary concerns is the potential impersonal nature of AI. While AI can offer efficiency in administrative tasks, content creation, and even in some aspects of pastoral care, it lacks the capacity for empathy, emotional understanding, and the nuanced interpersonal interactions that are central to building and nurturing relationships within the church. There's a risk that an over-reliance on AI could lead to a depersonalization of ministry, where technology becomes a substitute for face-to-face interactions, personal pastoral visits, and warm human touch that is so vital to fostering deep and meaningful church relationships. That's a great insight from Jake as far as some of some big concerns. Some other things I want to highlight are, so I've done several seminars. I've been talking on this subject for a while, and I already know it's not always met with warm, open arms. And so I get that and I understand that. These are all concerns that have been voiced to me specifically, whether in a Q&A from a seminar or in a response to a video or something like that. I've heard that, AI it's a slippery slope to worse things in the future. AI provides unreliable information and therefore shouldn't be used in important tasks like pastoral ministry. AI is just another tool for Satan. We shouldn't have anything to do with it. Pastors need to rely on the Holy Spirit and not AI. How do I know that my pastor isn't just copying sermons written by ChatGPT? Okay, this is just a small selection of the many concerns that I've heard. And just to address some of these, AI is a slippery slope to worse things in the future, and the answer to that might be maybe. Maybe, I mean, these are, as I say down here at the bottom, these concerns demonstrate legitimate concerns. These are all good concerns that we all should have, but they also express a fundamental misunderstanding regarding the nature of technology as a neutral tool, which we're going to talk about on the next slide. But a couple things I'll mention before we move on, that things like pastors need to rely on the Holy Spirit and not AI. 100%, absolutely, I agree with that. And this is where we need to realize that there's all sorts of misuse of technology even before AI, right? We can, as pastors, we can go on and misuse technology. We can misuse the internet. We can misuse other pastors' sermons, right? And so when it comes down to this last question, how do I know that my pastor isn't just copying sermons written by ChatGPT? Well, hopefully your pastor is an actual pastor, and isn't up there pretending and playing holy man, as if he's trying to get one over on the church for a small paycheck, right? And so I would hope that shouldn't even be a concern. However, as we'll see in just a moment, it is a concern, right? Pastoral plagiarism is not a new concern. And so if we look at this, this is really, I think, foundational to this discussion. Understanding technology as a neutral tool. Okay, so technology is neither inherently good or bad. It reflects the user and his intent and application. And so recognizing that technology, like any tool, can be used for good or ill, since AI does show evidence of doing lots of good, like in the various applications this book explores. This is that book, AI in Church and Ministry. We can embrace it as yet another powerful teaching tool like the printing press or PowerPoint slides. Couple of things here to mention. If we just use the internet as an example, the internet is a tool. The internet is a technology. It is a wide range, and it is integrated into other things. Okay, no different than AI. AI is integrated into music platforms, it's integrated into your shopping platforms, and it's integrated into your informational platforms, just like the internet. And so if we look at our concerns that we have about AI, and then compare them to, do we have the same concern about the internet? And I think we actually acknowledge potentially some level of miscomparing. And so if we look at both the internet and AI are tools that can help us gather information, answer questions, connect with other useful technologies and devices that we use daily, and generally improve our quality of life. In the same way, if we look at the internet and AI are both tools that can be misused. They can be used to cheat. They can be used to steal, spread misinformation, and engage with immoral or inappropriate content. Okay, I guarantee you, Larry Caldwell, having an official position in a seminary, has a position on AI. And it may not be the same that I do. I'm interested in my one-on-one sit down with him in just a little bit. And so, but we see plagiarism, immorality, idolatry, the over-reliance on AI is a problem, right? And so a lack of reliance on the Holy Spirit. These are reflections of the individual's choices, not the technology itself. And so if we start to, so these are the concerns, but the bigger question is, and this has been the focus of my study, is how can this technology be used to aid and support pastoral ministry? We've talked a lot in this seminar a couple days ago about bivocational pastors and churches with reducing funds. And so if there are ways that pastors can be able to take some of the routine things out of their weekly workload and automate them or make them easier, take up less time, and give pastors more time to do the things that can't be done with technology, like faithfully prepare, deliver sermons, pray for people, pastoral care visits, counseling. These are all things that require a human mind that AI cannot replicate. interpreting data entry, those type of technology is getting to the point where we can leverage technology to do that. And so some of the things that I want to showcase here, I'm going to show 6 examples of benefits of this technology. How can this be used to aid and support pastoral ministry? My focus in this has been on small church settings where pastors typically have to wear more than one hat. This is not thinking of the large mega church where the pastor has 7 other pastors, 42 different staff members, in-house full-time graphic designer. I'm talking the small church where it's a pastor and maybe a secretary if they're lucky. Right? How can we help that pastor be able to do the most amount of kingdom good ethically? And so the first is, and I put the most controversial first. So we're going to talk about this: sermon prep and research. Can AI be used for sermon prep and research? Notice I didn't say writing the sermon. AI can be used to curate relevant resources, sermons, commentaries, resources for study. It's no different than if I walked to the library and started picking books off the shelf for resources or research, or I have books behind me. I've got commentaries. I got books over here. It's all data, it's all information, and these tools have been trained on not only the entire internet but on trillions of lines of data. Now, this is important. The technology is good and it's only getting better, but it is not perfect. There is never a time that you should ever copy and paste something out of anything AI. It's not that reliable. It's good. It'll get you a start. It'll give you some good insights, some things to think about, which again is not new. As the pastor that preaches regularly, it's not uncommon to read other pastors' sermons to get insights, to get inspiration, to we don't have to start every week from with a blank sheet of paper. It's good for us to glean off of other people's work. This doesn't mean that we're copying other people's work, and this is where it's an independent issue from pastor to pastor. If a pastor is willing to sit down and plagiarize something, that's ultimately an issue between them and God, and that will come to light eventually. Right? We've seen this happen more times than not. In fact, I have a slide here just to talk about, this is not a new issue. I've heard more people concerned over pastors using AI to get out of sermon prep, which is ridiculous. That's my favorite part of the week. But if we just look at this, Sermon Central has been around for decades. Any pastor can go on here. I searched John 1, and this is without paying a dime. I, as a pastor, I have access. There's 2,364 sermons on this website on John 1. Okay, if I'm the kind of pastor, and I put that in quotes, if I'm the kind of false man of God that would go and rip off a sermon from AI, I'm the same guy that would go on this website, click on one of these sermons, and copy and paste it and put my name on top. There's no difference, right? And so we see that this is not a new concern. Pastoral plagiarism has been around for a long time, okay? And unfortunately, it's not going away, right? Because sin is still in this world, and it's a daily struggle, and it's a daily battle for a lot of people. And so again, Sermon Central is not the problem. Sermon Central is a great tool to go on and glean from other people's diligent, Holy Spirit saturated sermon preparation and to get good insight. Can it be misused? Absolutely. And it is misused. The second thing I want to mention is expanding the reach of our Sunday sermon. Okay, as pastors, there's probably nothing that we spend more time on each week as far as hours than prepping for the Sunday sermon. On average, it's like 20 to 25 hours a week for a sermon. And more times than not, that sermon, what happens on Monday morning? It's put in a shelf and it's never touched again. So how can we leverage this technology to expand the reach of the work that we're already doing? These are just a couple of ways that my church does. Every Monday morning, I use AI to help me not do it, but we have a study guide that is created on Monday morning based off of the prior Sunday's message. So it takes our live stream, it pulls the full transcript So every word that was spoken, and it then creates not this document, but basically a list of these different elements. And then again, me as a human, as a pastor who is prayerfully doing this, I then go through each section and decide if I want that section, if I want something changed, if something's not accurate. There always needs to be a human element involved in this. And then we take that to curate the study guide. This study guide is used every Monday night at my small group. We have a church that is wanting to dig into the Sunday content, but we didn't have the staff or ability for somebody to sit down and do this every week. This takes no extra, it takes me 5 minutes on Monday morning to curate this study guide that's now blessing numerous small groups. It's posted on our church app because we have individuals that want to go through it with their families. We have social media reels that are created automatically. Our live stream on Sunday morning goes to another program automatically, and it takes this, it uses AI to identify the transcript and find logical points throughout the message, gives us a couple different options to choose from. We click one, it auto formats, it puts the captions on top, and then we download this video and we can immediately post it to social media, and which we link in the description to click and watch the full sermon. Right. And so we see these are just two instances of us being able to dramatically increase the reach of the thing that we're spending the most time doing. And it didn't cost us a dime. It didn't cost us money. We didn't have to hire a specialized staff to do it. It did it for us. And so as I just read here, most sermons are rarely used after Sunday morning. By leveraging AI, we can extend the impact of our prepared sermons without the need for additional hours or hiring specialized staff. Many churches are already facing financial challenges and cannot consider hiring additional staff. So what ends up happening? They end up not doing it, right? They can't. So this is now more things that the church can do because of this new technology. What once was impossible due to time and budget constraints can now be accomplished in just minutes with AI technology. A couple other quick ones. I'm going to go through these faster. Language translation. We now have the ability. Again, most of us are live streaming post-COVID. You can literally have your church live streaming in English, have that same live streaming being ported into a piece of software that's converting your service in real time to any language. So say you're in the middle of a large Spanish-speaking population. Imagine your church, your pastor goes up on Sunday and preaches, and you have two live streams going out, one in English and one in Spanish. There's value there. There's benefit. That's not cost. Your live stream's already happening. It's taking no extra effort on your end. Data analysis. Imagine being able to look through 3 years worth of attendance data or giving data or any other data you have and being able to see trends and see that your attendance dips during certain weeks of the year because of school seasons or vacations, and it's high in other times. And so you're able to take that information, you're able to determine, hey, during these weeks, we're typically low. That would be a great opportunity for us to do some outreach opportunities. Or when attendance is high, that's a great time for us to really dig into some discipleship opportunities, or, whatever it is, these programs, we need to be having thought over when we're doing them. We don't just throw a dart at the calendar. So this is more information that we can leverage to be able to do it better and more efficiently and more effectively. Grammar and proofing. These programs are good for checking. My grammar is not very good. I write the way I talk. So I was a pastor first and then went to seminary. And that was a struggle for me because I write papers the way that I would give a speech. So I write in the form of a speech because I'm used to, most of my writing comes from writing sermons, and that's not necessarily always grammatically correct. And so we basically have a better version of spell check that we're able to utilize. It's a better, more robust version. The last thing I want to mention here is custom GPTs. GPT stands for Generated Pre-Trained Transformer, which is a fancy way of saying it's a program that's trained on a bunch of data to be able to give responses. You can make custom GPTs. And so what I've actually done is I've actually created a custom GPT for my church. And so what that's allowed me to do is weed through some of the potential misinformation that these things are learned on, and it's tailor-made just for our church. So I've trained it on our bylaws, our Constitution, the North American Baptist Statement of Faith, everything that is special and unique to my church. it knows. And so what that's allowed me to do is I can go on and ask it complex questions. I'll give you an example. I went on and I asked it, and you'll see this, it's me typing at the bottom. According to the FBC Constitution, I spelled that wrong, but it's still new. What's the process for hiring a new senior pastor? Okay, it's searching its knowledge base that I've given it. It's now able to outline the exact process according to the Constitution for my church, what needs to take place for us to hire a new senior pastor. It tells us that we need to establish a search committee of 2 elders, 1 deacon, 1 deaconess, 1 trustee, 1 member of the Christian Education Committee, 1 member of the Missions Committee, 1 member of the Worship Committee, and the church clerk. These members are elected by their respective boards or committees, right? This is good information. We're able to do this. And this is just one. Another example, I got a pretty strongly worded email this last week regarding a potential misstep and a violation of where there was a disagreement on whether a decision violated our Constitution or not. And so I took the bulk of that email and I said, who was wrong? Who was right? Based off of our Constitution. This is the response. I redacted some stuff for privacy's sake, but the chair of this committee is correct, which means I was wrong. This is not the response I wanted, by the way. So it doesn't always just tell you what you want to hear. Is correct in his objections regarding some stuff. According to the church's Constitution, specifically section blank of article blank, the committee in consultation with the pastor and associate pastor is responsible for some stuff. Since the blank committee was not consulted in this action, it does indeed violate the stipulated process in the Constitution. That's unfortunate. But as pastors, do we not get these questions constantly? And what do? We got to get our little books out. We got to thumb. We got to read them. There's all sorts of information that churches have to deal with. And so this helps us be able to sort through some of that stuff. And I have a lot more that I want to get through, so I'm going to start going faster. Cultural challenges and concerns regarding AI. If we just examine these are the large scale concerns, right? This is outside of just a pastor. This is just AI in general. What are the concerns of the coming landscape? If we examine the potential traps, that's an acronym that I made, of AI adoption, highlighting key concerns that we need to be vigilant in monitoring as we integrate this technology into our daily lives. T for transparency. I held a lot of seminars. I had surveys. The number one thing that almost everyone agreed on, which is almost impossible in this world to get everybody to agree on something, was the desire for transparency when AI is used. They said, hey, if someone's using AI, let us know. We want to know about it. People don't want to feel like they're being fooled by AI-generated stuff. And so if we're going to be using AI, we need to let people know. A quick example of this, for this reason, and more churches are doing this. And if you're a pastor and you plan to start utilizing some of this technology, I would encourage you to do the same. We've actually I'm actually in the process of creating an AI use policy for our church that outlines this is how we allow this technology to be used, and this is how we do not allow this technology to be used. And so there will never be a misunderstanding regarding our stance on how we use this technology. R for regulations. There are some really bad things that happen with AI. And currently, unfortunately, there are no laws protecting against them because the laws and regulations have not kept up with the technology. And so it's important, I believe, for Christians to be involved in this conversation. We don't want just the non-believers out there advocating for regulations. We want to be a part of the conversation and make sure this technology is being developed ethically. This is probably one of the more one of the biggest concerns I would encourage you to communicate to your families and parents of children. There was a study done in January of this year that identified in America 30% of individuals identified as feeling lonely at least once a week. If you take 18 to 35-year-olds, that jumped to every day. 30% of young adults marked feeling lonely every day. And so what we're going to see, and this is going to sound creepy, it's going to sound weird, it's unfortunate, but this is actually already happening. Okay, there are already AI companion apps where people can go on and have fake conversations with fake things, meetings potentially attempting to meet social needs that they're not meeting elsewhere. And so this sounds weird, but if you put yourself in the mindset of a 14-year-old, middle school boy who doesn't have friends, who's socially awkward, who feels like nobody understands them, who is bullied and picked on, comes home and is not getting their emotional needs met from their parents. And so they go on these apps just to play around and have some fun, and then realize this is the only thing in the world that actually understands them and gets them. Not because it's actually alive and thinking, but because it's been programmed on trillions of lines of data to give perfect responses every time. And so now all of a sudden we see that taken to a much unhealthier degree, where AI boyfriends and girlfriends are expected to be $1 billion a year industry. And so you take that in combination with the significant increases in artificially generated video, we're probably less than, this is my speculation, but I think we're less than a year, conservatively, probably 6 months away from AI generated video calls from our cell phones, meaning a middle schooler or a high schooler could pick up their iPhone and have a simulated FaceTime with an AI companion. Okay, this is reality. This is what's happening. And we need to be aware of this as pastors, because we need to be equipping, whether we like this or not is irrelevant, it's happening. And so this is the landscape that we need to be stewarding and shepherding our churches through in the future. Or we can pretend like it's not happening, but I believe we do our church a disservice in that process. There's a QR code there for a link to a New York Post Times. There's a gentleman currently spending $10,000 a month on AI companions. You can read that article. P for privacy. People want to make sure that their information is secure. If we're using AI within church contexts, we need to have the utmost diligence making sure that our church's congregant information is secure and is not being leaked or used by programs that they themselves don't have strict safety protocols for privacy. Some of the bigger long-term, these are things that we don't have answers for. These are things that haven't even necessarily happened yet. But the three biggest concerns regarding AI long-term is job loss. Automation enabled by AI threatens to displace numerous jobs, leading to significant unemployment. That's probably going to happen. And and this is the response, while AI may automate some new tasks, it also creates new opportunities. We've seen this with every major technological breakthrough. If we go back to the Industrial Revolution, if we go at when the internet was first invented, we saw mass job losses, but it created new jobs. And in this specific instance, I think what we're going to see new jobs developed specifically in line with the things that AI can't do, which is the human creativity, empathy, encouraging a shift in workforce skills, and training towards the more innovative and interpersonal roles. And so there's going to be jobs affected. It's going to happen. And we as pastors and as church leaders need to be aware of it, because we'll have congregants lose their jobs. Second thing is important, intellectual decline. Okay, and so this is the worry that over-reliance on AI for problem-solving and decision-making could reduce individuals' ability to think critically and independently. If we're just trusting AI to answer all of our problems, are we going to get dumber as a society, is the concern. And the answer to that is probably. I think some will. I think some will overuse the technology, they'll use it as a crutch, and it will actually decrease their ability to critically think for themselves. So this challenge underscores the importance of education systems that emphasize critical thinking. We need to be aware of this problem, not because it's going to happen. We need to be aware of this problem so that way we can be actively educating against this problem to solve it. And so as soon as we just pretend like it's not happening, we're not going to be part of the solution. And so that way we don't use AI. We use AI as a tool rather than a crutch, enhancing the intellectual capacities rather than diminishing. The last thing I'll mention briefly, there's a seminar and a half just on AGI. AGI stands for Artificial General Intelligence. We do not have this currently. This has not been developed. It is theorized. This is the next evolution of AI. This is when the chess program can then teach itself how to play checkers. Okay, we don't have this, but every tech company, every capable nation is spending billions of dollars today trying to develop this. Estimates are that we'll achieve AGI within the next 10 years. I think it will be sooner. AGI possesses significant, potentially existential risks, as these programs, artificial general intelligence is defined as the moment that the computer becomes smarter than the average human. And so some of the problems that I just want you to be thinking about from a pastoral lens regarding the future landscape, should this happen, should Jesus not knock down Tower of Babel for a second time, is what happens to the Christian and our identity when, by definition, we may not be the smartest thing on the planet anymore. What's that going to do for the mental psyche of a congregant, of a person created in the image of God? How much of our identity could be shattered at that moment? And while the emergence of AGI will undoubtedly lead to substantial cultural shifts, some of which will be challenging, there will be likely, if there's something in this world for people to worship that's not God, they'll do it. As soon as AGI comes out and can answer all of our problems, people will worship it. And we'll see this in the future. It will also, the good will be better and the bad will be worse. AGI will help us cure diseases, will solve complex problems like world hunger and climate change and you name it. But the bad's going to get a lot worse too. And so we need to be aware of it. And so the last thing, this is my last slide. I'm over time. I'm sorry, Larry. Some concluding thoughts. AI is a tool like any other. AI is fundamentally a tool akin to any other thing that we might use, like the internet. When harnessed with a Christ-centered ethic, it offers significant opportunities to support and enhance our efforts in making impactful contributions to the kingdom of God. Second, the church should be involved in this conversation. As AI technology advances, the church must actively participate in discussions, advocating for its development in ways that promote human engagement and critical thinking. This involvement ensures that AI serves to enhance rather than replace the essential human elements of our interactions and decision-making process. Lastly, the third thing, we need to be informed and prepared for what's coming. This technology is here to stay, and ignoring it will only do a disservice to our congregations. Regardless of our personal feelings or ethical judgments about these changes, it is crucial that we serve as a guiding voice for our churches. The impact of this shift will be profound, and many are already apprehensive. Our role is to prepare and support our community through these changes, ensuring they face the future with faith and confidence. Here's some works cited stuff if you want to take a picture of that, or I'll make these slides available for anybody that wants it. There's some really good books on this subject. I'd really encourage The Coming Wave. Fantastic book. This guy was really at the ground floor of the AI creation. A lot of stuff in here, how this impacts church ministry. That's the end of my presentation. Thank you. I'm sorry I went 10 minutes over. I apologize. Looking forward to having some lively discussion with you guys.